I thought Caitlin's playmaking ability, really kind of got us going. We got into a nice rhythm in that second quarter and scored a lot of points. So
the business of professional sports is driven by a constant, ruthless battle between the legacy establishment and the disruptive forces of the future. When a massive corporate entity, whether it is a Fortune 500 tech company or the deeply entrenched hierarchy of USA basketball, is confronted with a reality that shatters their preconceived operational structure, their first instinct is always absolute denial. They try to suppress the disruption. They try to force the new, hyper-efficient asset to sit behind the legacy products in the name of seniority, culture, and paying dues. They want to prove that the old system still works. They want to prove that they are the ones in control of the market. But the free market is undefeated. You cannot suppress a superior product forever. Eventually, the empirical data becomes so overwhelmingly obvious, the performance gap becomes so undeniably massive, that the establishment is forced to sit in front of the media microphones and publicly admit that their initial strategy was a complete, unmitigated failure. We are watching this corporate cognitive dissonance play out in real time with the USA basketball women's national team. The coaching staff, led by Kara Lawson, made a highly political, heavily scrutinized decision to bench Caitlin Clark in her international senior debut. They opted to start the veteran establishment. They wanted to send a message to the world, and to Clark herself, that the hierarchy of women's basketball remained intact. But the moment the ball was tipped, the absolute superiority of the Caitlin Clark economy violently rejected that narrative. The starting lineup stagnated. The offense looked pedestrian. And the moment Clark stepped onto the floor, the entire geometry of the game fundamentally changed. The pressure on Kara Lawson during her post-game press conference was palpable. She knew that the entire global sports media apparatus was watching, waiting to see how she would justify leaving the most prolific offensive engine in the world on the bench. And in a moment of stunning, uncomfortable corporate transparency, Lawson was forced to admit that the team simply did not function at an elite level until the 24-year-old point guard took the keys to the franchise.
I thought Caitlin's playmaking ability, really kind of got us going. We got into a nice rhythm in that second quarter and scored a lot of points. So
listen closely to the exact phrasing used by the head coach of Team USA. She does not just say Caitlin Clark played well. She admits that Clark's playmaking ability is what really kind of got us going. She admits that the team did not find a rhythm, did not establish an offensive flow, and did not begin to dominate the game until the second quarter. Who was running the offense in the second quarter? It was not the veteran starting lineup. It was Caitlin Clark operating as the supreme floor general. This is a devastating admission for the WNBA veteran establishment. For the past 2 years, the militant old guard has desperately tried to push the narrative that Clark is merely a volume scorer who shoots too much and disrupts team chemistry. They wanted the public to believe that her style of play could not translate to a roster filled with other elite superstars. But Kara Lawson just completely dismantled that narrative on international television. She explicitly confirmed that Clark's playmaking, her passing, her vision, her ability to read defensive rotations at an elite processing speed is exactly what unlocked the entire USA basketball offense. But Lawson, operating as an executive trying to protect her own initial strategic failure, could not bring herself to use the word mistake. Instead, when pressed by reporters about her substitution patterns and the decision to bench the Golden Goose, she deployed one of the most classic, evasive corporate buzzwords in the history of management.
Don't read a lot into, we've talked about this with our players, like the starting lineup's going to change, the rotations are going to change. As a coach, I'm still in fact-finding mode, not in terms of who they are. I know who they are as players, but trying to find some chemistry and see what combinations fit best together.
I'm still in fact-finding mode. That is the sound of a corporate manager realizing they just completely mispriced their most valuable asset. When a CEO launches a product that fails to resonate with consumers and the backup product immediately shatters sales records, the CEO does not admit incompetence. They claim they were simply gathering data. They claim they were testing the market. Kara Lawson knows exactly who Caitlin Clark is. The entire world knows who Caitlin Clark is. She is the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history. She is the undisputed Rookie of the Year. She is the sole reason that TNT Sports purchased the broadcast rights to these FIBA World Cup qualifying games. To stand in front of the international media and claim that you are still in fact-finding mode regarding a generational talent who just dropped a massive double-double with a plus 35 rating in 12 minutes of play is an insult to the intelligence of the sports consumer. But Lawson's statement contained a massive, undeniable concession to reality. The starting lineup's going to change. That single sentence is the white flag of surrender from the USA basketball establishment. They tried to protect the veteran hierarchy. They tried to prioritize legacy and seniority over raw, undeniable market capitalization. And the experiment failed so spectacularly that the head coach had to immediately promise the media that the rotations would be fundamentally restructured. The establishment is finally realizing that you cannot place a governor on a Ferrari and expect to win the race. Caitlin Clark is not a complementary piece. She is not a situational asset to be deployed when the veterans need a rest. She is the entire operating system. And when you surround a supreme operating system with the greatest athletes on the planet, the results are absolutely terrifying for the rest of the world. Lawson, realizing that her fact-finding excuse was incredibly weak, was forced to elaborate on exactly why Clark's presence on the floor completely transformed the USA basketball product.
And as much as she is dynamic as a scorer, she's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the world as well. And so we just talked about her utilizing all the talent. It's the most talented team she's played on. So imagine being a dynamic playmaker, and then all of a sudden you're playing alongside all these other dynamic playmakers and finishers. And so I thought she toggled between, the playmaking and the scoring really well tonight, and looked pretty comfortable out there. So I was proud.
She's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the world. Imagine being a dynamic playmaker, and then all of a sudden you're playing alongside all these other dynamic playmakers and finishers. This is the exact nightmare scenario that the WNBA establishment has been terrified of for the past 12 months. The militant veterans knew that if Caitlin Clark was ever surrounded by elite, Olympic-level talent, players who could actually run the floor, catch her deep transition passes, and finish aggressively at the rim, she would instantly break the sport of basketball. They knew that her assist numbers would become astronomical. They knew that the entire narrative of her being an inefficient rookie would be completely annihilated. And that is exactly what happened against Senegal. Clark did not just score, she operated as a master conductor, manipulating the defense with her eyes, executing wraparound passes, and spoon-feeding wide-open layups to players like Monique Billings and Kiki Iriefem. She made every single player on the court exponentially better. She elevated their market value simply by existing in their orbit. When Lawson says, imagine playing alongside all these other dynamic finishers, she is inadvertently highlighting the absolute absurdity of the decision to start Chelsea Gray. If you have the most dynamic playmaker in the world, and you have a roster packed with the most elite finishers in the world, the only logical, mathematically sound corporate strategy is to pair them together from the opening tip. To do anything else is deliberate, intentional sabotage of your own offensive efficiency. The media in that press room recognized the massive contradiction in Lawson's statements. They realized that the coach was heavily praising the bench unit while desperately trying to avoid criticizing her own starting lineup. So, an incredibly sharp reporter completely cornered her. The reporter asked a direct, highly specific counter question. Which combinations did you actually like today? Lawson was trapped. She could not lie. She could not protect the veterans. She had to name the exact unit that saved the game.
Combinations that fit well, which combinations did you like today?
Well, I kind of already mentioned that group in the second quarter. I thought got into a good rhythm offensively. I think it was Caitlin, KP, Ryan, Monique, and Kiki. I thought we got into a good flow.
Started. You messed
and when
up,
I say combinations that play well,
I kind of already mentioned that group in the second quarter. Caitlin, KP, Ryan, Monique, and Kiki. There it is, the absolute, undeniable, permanent truth, spoken directly from the mouth of the USA basketball head coach. The best combination on the floor. The combination that established an offensive rhythm. The combination that manufactured high-quality shot attempts. The combination that finally figured out the defensive rotations. It was the unit operated entirely by Caitlin Clark. Notice exactly who was in that lineup: Kelsey Plum, Ryan Howard, Monique Billings, Kiki Iriafen, and Caitlin Clark. It is a lineup built entirely on pace, space, shooting, and extreme athleticism. It is a lineup that completely abandons the slow, methodical, post-heavy style of the WNBA old guard. It is the future of women's basketball. And the moment that lineup stepped onto the floor, the game was over. By specifically naming that 5-player combination, Kara Lawson implicitly admitted that the veteran starting lineup failed to execute the game plan. She admitted that the hierarchy is broken. She admitted that the old way of doing business is officially obsolete. This brings us to the explosive, undeniably satisfying conclusion of this entire corporate saga. The establishment can try to spin the narrative all they want. They can use phrases like fact-finding mode and chemistry building to mask their strategic incompetence. But the consumers are not blind. The fans understand exactly what they are watching. They see the blatant politics, they see the fragile veteran egos, and they see the absolute absurdity of keeping the greatest player in the world on the bench. The creator of this video perfectly encapsulates the overwhelming sentiment of the entire global sports market.
Bruh, at the end of the day, she made a big mistake by not starting Caitlin Clark, and now she's looking like a deer in her headlights. Well, I think, Caitlin Clark with Ryan Howard is just a better look. We just gotta wait and see, and I talked to every... I don't hear that! I'm finna be live in a hot second. We finna talk about this. Caitlin Clark should have been a starter. I don't give...
She made a big mistake by not starting Caitlin Clark, and now she's looking like a deer in headlights. That is the raw, unfiltered, unapologetic truth of the situation. Kara Lawson looked like a deer in headlights because she realized, in front of the entire international media, that she had made a massive, highly public corporate error. She prioritized politics over performance. She prioritized the feelings of the veteran class over the absolute optimization of the USA basketball offense. And now she is trapped. If she continues to start the veterans, she risks looking completely incompetent as the offense stagnates and the fans revolt. If she promotes Clark to the starting lineup, she officially signals to the world that the veteran era is permanently over, and the keys to the empire have been officially handed to a 24-year-old. The WNBA establishment is currently watching this entire scenario unfold while they sit locked in a bitter, toxic labor dispute in Manhattan. The militant veterans are threatening to cancel the 2026 season because they believe they are indispensable. But they are watching USA Basketball realize, in real time, that the only truly indispensable asset in the entire sport is Caitlin Clark. The momentum has shifted. The leverage has completely evaporated. The old guard tried to suppress the future, and the future simply stepped onto the court, dropped a massive double-double in 12 minutes, and forced the head coach to completely rewrite the playbook. I want to hear from you. Drop down into the comments right now. Did Kara Lawson make a massive, politically motivated mistake by benching Caitlin Clark in her international debut just to protect the veteran hierarchy? Did she look like a deer in headlights during that press conference when she was forced to admit that Clark's unit was the only one that actually functioned correctly? And will USA Basketball finally stop playing games and permanently hand the keys to the franchise to the greatest playmaker in the world? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you want the unapologetic, aggressive truth about the cutthroat business of sports, the high-stakes leverage games played in corporate boardrooms, and the stories the mainstream sports media is absolutely terrified to cover, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video everywhere. We do not do sanitized public relations narratives here. We expose the raw, bloody reality hiding in the shadows. Stay sharp. I will see you in the next one.